All right, folks, we got the Johnson motor outside here. I got some fuel hooked up to it, just mixed up a fresh batch, and I want to really just kind of test these fuel lines here and make sure I'm getting fuel come through that fuel pump there. So what I'm going to do is just press this primer bulb. I haven't hooked that fuel line back into the carburetor yet. And I'm just going to press on this primer bulb and see if I got fuel coming out of there past the fuel filter and pump there, just to make sure we got fuel flow coming. I'm going to catch it in a bottle. Okay, so let's take this fuel line, make sure that's going into there. I'll put that down there actually so it doesn't spill out. Alrighty, let's see what we got here. Okay, see that? That's that mixed gas. All right, today I am testing out the fuel system in the 76 Johnson 6-horse. I started the motor up originally just to see if it ran, to see how much work I was looking at initially, and I mixed a fresh batch of 50-to-1 two-stroke oil and some fresh fuel together. And one thing I noticed is that before I plugged the gas line back into the carburetor, I ran it through all the fuel lines right before it was supposed to go into the carburetor, and the gas was looking bad. You can see that residue in the bottom there. That's the gas once I ran it through the fuel lines. So I didn't know exactly where that grime was coming from. Was it coming from this tank, which was old, probably hadn't been used in a while? Was it coming from the fuel line with the primer bulb going into the tank? Was it the internal fuel lines? So I'm trying to backtrack that. And so what I did was I've taken the gas line off the tank with the fresh fuel in there that I mixed, and I'm going to pour it in to this plastic bottle here, a little bit of it. Okay, now we can see that that looks pretty good. That's what it's supposed to look like. My 50-to-1 mixture, two-stroke mixture. Again, this is what it looked like after I ran it through the fuel lines. So next, what I think I need to do, and I have, I think I may even have a little bit of gas left in that fuel line that I just took off. So let me just, I'll pour this good gas back in there, because this could have been the cause of our bogging down. It's possible. Let's see if I can get any of this fuel out of here. Take a look at what she looks like. Okay, this is coming out of the fuel line with the primer bulb. At least what I can get out of that end of it. Let's see if I can get anything coming out of the other end of it. Okay, now I've hooked this line up. I'm just trying to get some gas out of this this gas line here. I'm going to press the bulb and just see if I can get a little more of it in here. Okay. Okay, now here. Okay, now I have hooked the gas can gas line here back up to the motor, and I have undone the gas line that's going through the carburetor. So this gas is going to be going all the way through. There's two different gas lines. There's one that leads up to the fuel pump here, and then from the fuel pump leading into the carburetor. So the gas that we pump through these two is going to be going through the entire gas line system. This actually looks a lot better. It could be that those gas lines were just dirty, and once some new gas was went through them, it cleaned them out a little too. That could be it. The point is to check your fuel lines. I'm replacing these fuel lines anyway because they're old, but I think I'll leave it up to the customer if they want to replace the primer bulb fuel line that's coming from the gas tank, because it actually doesn't look as bad as I thought. But I will be looking to replace these fuel lines on the internals here. because that can be a reason why you're shutting off and you're not running good as the bad gas and the bad fuel lines. Okay, so I'm going to start removing these gas lines. I'm going to be replacing both of them. I think that they're the original 1976. Just in case I need to reuse them, I like to try and be careful with these zip ties coming off of them. But sometimes you just can't help but cut through that gas line with these things. But that's why I replace them with C-clamps in case I got to get in there. I can just unscrew them and get back into these lines here. This is like a 1/4 inch diameter line. It's a small outside diameter too, but yeah, you can tell these lines have never really been off there. They're kind of tough. All right, so that was the gas line going to the carburetor there. And then I've got another zip tie here on this. You can tell this is the original gas line because it says 1976 on it. So it's been on here since 1976 and needs to be retired. All right. This is the bottom part of the fuel pump where it comes up from the gas tank. Then it goes through the fuel pump into that smaller line and then into the carburetor. Okay, look at that. So there is our old fuel pump filter on top here, and the gasket just stuck to the back. That is your original 1976 there. Here is the new one. Gasket is not stuck to the back. I got the gasket separately here. This is the part number for the fuel pump. And then this is the gasket, but the gasket didn't come with it. The gasket was separate, but we're going to be putting all those on. Okay. But first, I want to deal with these gas lines. I've got a gas line. This big one here is hooked in through this gas. Down here, there's a bolt here we got to get this gas line out of here. Right here. Okay, and then we can just, looks like we can just pull this gas line through here. Now this is a 5/16. See, look at that original 1976 gas line there. Okay. And it's zip tied to this connector here. So I'm going to have to, what I want to do is I've got, let's see, I have some gas line I bought from Yamaha here. This is a 3-foot section of 5/16, which I'm going to replace with this part. Just need to get this last zip tie off here. Ooh, a little aggressive on that one. All right. Okay. I don't know if I need my screwdriver or not. No. Okay. So there's that. And this is our old, look at that. It's just barely even pliable. 1976 fuel line here versus the new one we're going to put on. Nice and pliable and new. I just want to get a good measurement on this one so I know exactly how much I'm going to need. And I'll just cut it with one of these. Okay, so this is the smaller gas line. This is the bigger one. For this gas line, all I could find for right now is just this stuff that you put on dirt bikes and side-by-sides and stuff like that. I don't know if it's rated for boats, but it's mixed gas can go through it. And I don't want to put this original back on, and that's all I could find for now. Those 1/4 inch ones are a lot harder to find. I'll eventually find something and probably replace it. But for now, just to get this motor running, I'm going to use that clear stuff for the smaller the smaller one. Okay, so take this gas line and cut it down to size. Okay, there we are. All right, now that's brand new fuel line. I don't know if that's, man, look at how cracked that old one is. Not good. I could actually, look at this. This is the old fuel line. I could just break right through it. Look at that. Look at how gnarly that old fuel line is. New one, it's a lot more pliable. Okay, it looks like we're same length, or am I a little too long here? There we are. That should be perfect. You know, I'm using these hose clamps instead of zip ties. It's kind of my preferred method here. I just use these small ones, 1/4 inch to 5/8, I guess they are. Okay, so just gonna unscrew this one here. Okay. All right, now this goes back onto this hose here. Hose looks good. To it in the future, it'll be at a spot where we can get the screw to it. Okay, so there is. Get this nice and tight. Fuel line's always going to be nice and tight. And I can even tighten it more after I put it on there too. Okay, there we are. It's nice and tight on there. Alright, and I'm going to take this, come back to the motor here, and just place this thing back up where, okay, where were we here? Right here. Ooh, it still fits in there. I was worried about that. Okay, and then we'll just screw that in right there. Okay, that's tight. Now, one thing we've got to do before we put a fuel pump on is this piece of this, you can see there's some gasket left here. Now this tool I have is actually, it's not really a boating tool, it's called a Scotty peeler, but any type of tool you can get, you don't want to scratch it necessarily, but you want to peel as much of this old gasket material off as you can. Sometimes, depending on how long it's been on there, this has been on there since '76, I'm assuming, so it's not going to be easy to come off. You can always hit it with a little WD, good old WD-40. If I have any left in this one. Okay. Okay, now we can see that looks a lot better. You want that, the reason you want to do that is just because it's, if you have old gasket material on there, it won't create that seal that you want, and that's what the gasket's there to do, to seal it. So if it's smooth, it'll create a better seal. Okay, so I'm going to take another clamp and another hose clamp, and I'm going to put it on this line. Let me just loosen it a little. I'm going to put it on this gas line obviously first, and then we're going to put the fuel pump and fuel filter. Okay, so we've got the gas line clamp on there. It's not tightened yet. Here is the new fuel pump. It's going to go like that. You got the 5/16 line here, 1/4 inch going out to the carburetor. Fuel filters on top there, brand new. Okay, so we'll just put this in here. Get that all the way down tight on that gas line. Okay, with the fuel pump, and then we're going to tighten up this C-clamp, or this hose clamp here. Want it right near the end there, just that's real important that you don't have gas leaks in these fuel lines, or excuse me, air leaks that get in, so you want to tighten them. And these ones, like these 5/16 that are a little bit wider, are actually more susceptible to air leaks. They're harder to tighten down than those smaller 1/4 inch. Okay. Alright, so we'll eventually be putting that right on there. Just want to hook up our smaller size gas line first here, which I'm going to use this clear tubing for just temporarily. And so I'll just use the straighten them out. Those are the same. Very nice. So this is going to be our new, going from the fuel pump to the carburetor. Okay. So actually I can just hook this on first, and then I can put the hose clamp from the other side and just tighten that and cinch it in. That one fits in there pretty good. Go there, and then that'll go to the carburetor there. Okay. All tight there on the fuel pump. Okay, now screw our gasket. Give you new screws with the fuel pump. This is our gasket here. So we're going to put that obviously in this spot here, right behind it, and then we're going to screw the screws in. It's going to go through the gasket and the fuel pump. There we go. See that? With the gasket on the back there. I'll move this over here so we can see. Okay. Screws going through the gasket. There we are. That is our new fuel lines here and here. This is a brand new 5/16 fuel line, brand new fuel pump, fuel filter on the top there. So all those lines are brand new, no longer 76. This is going to go into the carburetor once we get that carburetor back on there and we get that rebuild kit done with the carburetor. There we are, new fuel system. Okay, I just cut it down a little shorter. Remember to put your clamp on first, then put it in. All right. That way you don't have to take it off and cut it shorter again. So it's all the way up. I'm just going to... Okay, so this is where we are. Just as a recap here, we did the fuel system, and I actually just got a new fuel line. It's one of those fuel lines that handles the ethanol better. I also cleaned out the tank with the old gas, the first batch of gas in there. I shook it all through, cleaned it out, and emptied that batch of gas because I thought that the gunk in the tank after a lot of years was in the gas, and that wasn't doing me any positive things for the engine. So I went and got some rec fuel, so non-ethanol fuel, and I made another mixture of 7.68 ounces to 3 gallons exactly, and I did a little bit under the 8 ounces because technically it's supposed to be 7.68 ounces of marine 2-cycle oil to the 3 gallons of gas, and I got that white smoke, and I thought that that was maybe because of the oil and the gas was a little too heavy. Then the fuel system, I just changed out this gas line here, the 5/16 that goes from your gas pickup here into the fuel pump. Fuel filter is all brand new. Oddly enough, I had to replace the gas line here with the old original gas line for the connection between the fuel pump and the carburetor, because it was smaller than I thought. I bought some 1/4 inch inside diameter, nice fuel line, and they don't sell these anymore, OEM they just don't make them anymore. So you have to find fuel line on the market, and it was tough for me to find. So this is actually a 3/16 inner diameter, so very narrow. And I think my problem was I had a clear gas line that was 1/4 inch, but it fit on snug, and it was from just a motorbike or something, ATV gas line. And I noticed there was always like an air bubble in there, and I think it was too wide. And so this 3/16 is the trick here. I started getting a lot more success on keeping this running when I went with the 3/16, and I think that's because I got a steady fuel going through that pump with the narrower or less diameter gas line.